the Gould Mine podcast.
What I'm hearing then is you've grown it from just a handful of viewers on a consistent basis to now 500 to 2,000, you said?
Per event. So
per event?
Yeah. So our community has 24,000 investors in it. The Confidence Investor Summit community has I think it's about 24,000 investors in the community. And so each event, it has between 500 and 2,000 people, depending on the topic. You know, if we're talking about IRAs and 401ks, boom, we blow up that event. If we're talking about taxes, boom, we blow up those events. Due diligence, how to avoid scams, don't be part of a Ponzi scheme, boom, those events blow up.
Perfect.
And so, it depends on the topic. But it's really fun. And we do a lot of surveys just asking folks, what do you want to learn about? What topic is scaring you right now? What topic's interesting you right now? And then we give it to them. If it's not my area of expertise, I bring in another expert and they talk about it, an asset protection attorney, a CPA, whatever it is. Danny to talk about hotels, because that's not my area of expertise. Sort of thing.
Love it. I'd be happy to do one with you. So, wow. 24,000 people in your community. That's incredible. And so just out of curiosity, are you running so obviously you're running your deals. You're probably like sending out emails to the people who raise their hands, say that I want to, learn about your investment opportunities. But outside of the ones that you're directly sponsoring, are you running any sort of like fund to funds as well with this group now that you've grown it to this size, or?
Not at this time, but we're thinking about it for the future, because now we have the capacity to do a lot more, and we don't have, we used to, back in the heyday, we could do 9 or 10 multifamily syndications a year. This year we're doing 3. So we have more capacity to raise money. We have more interest. So that's why we started branching off into oil and gas. That's why we branched off into hedge funds. And then, yes, there are some that we are doing due diligence right now on in order to move fund to funds in the future based on what our investor community wants. So it is a consideration.
Yeah, it just seems to make a lot of sense, because with that many people, like that's, for anyone who's listening right now at home, like Sarah's just kind of like making it seem like no big deal. Like 24,000 is a lot of people. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of investors. So that's very impressive.
And it's important also to make sure that you have systems. So when I was working in Silicon Valley, I worked at PlayStation in the customer success team. And so we did a lot of work around like, you don't want people to call you. You just don't want people you want people to be able to self-serve, and you want people to have zero problems.
Yeah.
And so that's always the goal. You don't want people to call or email you, because it means they can't do it themselves or they have problems. And so I've kept that with me as I built my own company to say, okay, how can we allow people to self-serve, self-select, self-educate, self-sign up, self-invest? And so we've worked really hard to make sure that our systems support that, because as you grow your community, if you also have to grow staff because everything's manual, then you wipe out the profits that you're going to earn. And so that's also one of our core philosophies is like, we want to maintain our profit level while we grow. So grow through automation systems and processes and not through staff. And that also reserves more profit for our investors.
It's interesting, because it sounds like your avatar, right, is probably like an, accredited investor, right? Like anyone who's accredited, which is interesting because I'm running a similar thing, but we've like niched it down even more to like physicians and doctors, because my business partner is a doctor. But it's interesting that you had this kind of success with like, it's like a broader niche, but it like, that's incredible. That's incredible.
And I know a lot of people niche down into like, we work with attorneys, or we serve, engineers or doctors, dentists. And at one point we tried that, and it was fairly narrow. And so instead of by occupation or career, we niched it more down into age groups. So we found that people who were, around 55, they were spending more time learning about investments. And people who were younger, like thinking about retirement, investing was so far in the future, they wouldn't sit down and learn enough. They just left it in their 401k, their company's running it, whatever. But folks who, once they get around 55, they're like, oh, I need to be pretty serious about what I'm doing with my money, because the end of working is in their, it's in their view.
Yeah.
And so, just not on purpose, we just realized it was happening, that 55 to 65-year-olds were the majority of people coming to our event. And so then we said, okay, if that's naturally who our events are attracting, let's serve that avatar, folks who are about to retire or, thinking about retiring in the next 5 to 10 years. And it works so well with syndications too, because that's 1 to 2 cycles of investment. So if our investments are 5 years and I get on the phone with someone and they say, hey, I'm going to, retire in 5 years, it's like, great. You have time to invest and get through 1 cycle. You double your money in 5 years, then now you can switch over to something that's a cash flow investment, because if you don't have your W-2 income anymore, you sold your business. So it works really well with syndications and funds that have a 4 to 5 year time frame.
Right.
Because you can invest for wealth building now, and then once you quit working, switch over to cash flow investments. So it just naturally worked out well.